Alright folks, after the recent Tears of the Kingdom gameplay demonstration from Aonuma, I've seen the sentiment that this game looks more and more like DLC, kind of cropping up here. And, you know, before this recent gameplay demonstration, I could have maybe at least understood that argument. But what Aonuma showed in terms of new abilities, in terms of new enemies, and all that, I personally was kind of blown away. So today I'm joined by my friend Caleb to discuss why Tears of the Kingdom isn't simply Breath of the Wild DLC Pack 3. So, Caleb, welcome back to the channel. It's been a while. Long time viewers will know. Yeah. Of course, anytime Zelda's coming out, we get you on here. So yeah, I just want to kind of get your read on this whole situation. I mean, it's actually insane how many people I've seen trying to downplay this as DLC. I'm talking people on podcasts, journalists, random people on Twitter and Reddit, like literally everyone. I think
the truth is they don't really know what they're talking about.
Right. Well, I think I don't know if it was Zeltic or another Zelda YouTuber. They ran a poll on Twitter saying whether or not they're excited for this game. And while that doesn't go hand in hand with them thinking it's DLC or not, it was like 40% weren't excited, which is crazy to me. So, right, to your point, if you think that this game looks like DLC, I don't want to sound like a dick, but you really don't know what you're talking about. None of us are developers, but, you know, Breath of the Wild's development was pretty troubled. I think it started in, 2012 and ended in 2017. And Aonuma went on record stating that was because of the physics engine. It wasn't because of the Wii U. It wasn't because of the Switch coming out. It was because of the physics engine. That's what took them so long to figure out.
Yeah, it was mostly the physics engine. And even if you go back to, like, the Game Awards 2014, when they first showed off, like, live gameplay, they basically had the map, at least, like, pretty structured out. You could see it on the gamepad. Pretty much the same.
Right. So with Tears of the Kingdom, you know, I personally was expecting them to have the same abilities from Breath of the Wild and then new stuff. It seems like we're probably just getting the new stuff, which is fine. But, you know, I mean, that requires a lot of reworking. And people would say, well, oh, it doesn't look like this was 6 years of work. They're reusing the same map. They're reusing the same assets. We'll get to the map and the Sky Islands and how much that actually adds to the game. But just talking about the physics, I think that's the main thing that is important with a sequel to Breath of the Wild, which, I mean, that was its hallmark, basically.
Yeah.
Maybe it wouldn't have taken 6 years. But first of all, you have to account for COVID, which I know people seem to forget about. That was like 2.5 years of just... Sure, they were working during that time, but that obviously affected things. But also, these new abilities are honestly unlike things I've ever seen, to the point where Nintendo actually patented these. I don't know if you saw that, Caleb. A few months back, I mean, we already like kind of seen like the Ascend ability, right? And then patents came up showing that ability. Nintendo has this stuff patented. That's how like you know, proud of it they are. So it's a damn sequel.
Yeah.
I don't like, and it's funny because I mean, even talking about like a Sony game, for example, and or two Sony games, Horizon and God of War. I remember people were saying specifically with God of War that Ragnarok looked like DLC because they hadn't shown very much of it. The main trailer for that game didn't come out until a month before the game even came out. So these people seem to be saying this looks like DLC because they haven't shown much of it. But and to be fully transparent, I've been pretty critical of their marketing for this game on this channel. I've made videos about it. But after that recent gameplay demonstration, it kind of clicked with me why. Breath of the Wild is all about discovery, and Tears of the Kingdom will be even more about discovery. So they want to show us as little as possible. I bet if it was up to Aonuma, they wouldn't even have that gameplay demonstration, to be completely honest. So yeah, just having all these new abilities, I mean, that takes a long time. And yeah, they are reusing a lot of the same area of the map, and it is using the same engine and graphics, but they're adding all these physics, they're adding all these things, they're just building upon Breath of the Wild. That's literally what a sequel is.
Yeah, and the thing that's funny is, if you look at, obviously they're reusing the map, right? But in the gameplay that they showed, if you look at like the mini map, it has like some icons for like caves and stuff. It seems way more dense than Breath of the Wild was, because there was multiple like icons on the map, just on the mini map. They didn't even like zoom out or anything.
Right, and I think that's another point people seem to not really understand. Like the people that are just kind of passing by, watching the trailers casually and not analyzing it a little bit more. We've only seen what is likely the opening area of this game. We've only seen the one Sky Island. That's all we've seen with like that weird upside down shrine statue kind of structure. And yeah, we can see a lot of stuff off in the distance, but for the most part, they've only been showing us this one area, which we can presume to be the opening area, once again, to hide and kind of have players find out all this stuff on their own. Talking about the caves and the base map, I'm not even talking about the Sky Islands. From what we saw in that most recent gameplay, I was actually pretty impressed with how much they added. I wasn't expecting them to even really change the map that much, but, you know, we have new, structures and outposts. We have new, obviously, caves. I mean, that's a huge addition. We have hints that you might be able to dive underwater. These are all hints that we got from just this opening area. Who knows how much they changed in later areas?
Yeah. There's definitely a lot changed, and I would say that the truth is, even if people are saying this game is glorified DLC, which obviously is not the case, and even if they're saying that, people who are going to buy this game are going to explore the world. They probably have played Breath of the Wild, the best-selling Zelda game. You're going to explore the world just to see what's different, and I assure you, there is plenty different. Even if they haven't showed that much, that's the whole point. Even when Breath of the Wild was coming out, they only showed the Great Plateau, for the most part.
Right. And, I mean, that's a good point, too, because, like, I've been recently itching to replay Breath of the Wild, because I haven't even played it since it came out. Like, it's been 6 years since I played that game. I never even did the Champions Ballad. And, you know, I've been getting that itch to kind of go back to it, but I'm like, no, I should wait. Not because I'm worried the ground level map is going to be the exact same, but because I want to see if I can pick up on the things that they did change without it being that fresh in my mind, because that's going to be like the standard kind of experience for a lot of people. And this kind of makes me think of something Ubisoft did with Far Cry 4 and Far Cry Primal, where they literally reused the same map and flipped it, and people didn't notice for a while. Breath of the Wild's map is so big and so well designed and so full of content that I mean, maybe this isn't a great argument for it, but it's been so long since I played it that, like, half of it's gonna feel new to me anyway, to be completely honest. And just having those little changes, even if it's as simple as having a new type of enemy in a new area, or an area that there was, you know, like a regular Bokoblins before, there's constructs there now, that's gonna make it feel alive, you know? Make it feel like they changed a lot.
And I've actually played, I know you haven't really played Breath of the Wild fully since basically 2017.
Mm-hmm.
But I've actually played, I played the DLC, and I actually beat the game multiple times. First in 2017, then I did like a replay like a couple years later, and then I just replayed the game like 2 months ago. So I'm gonna be able to like tell a little bit more like what the differences are. Obviously, I'm no expert, but like I have no doubt in my mind that this is gonna be at least as good as Breath of the Wild.
Right. I mean, and that's the promise of a sequel. That's what a sequel is for. From everyone I've talked to, just going to that comparison again, Horizon Forbidden West is better than the first game. God of War Ragnarok is better than the first game. That's what a freaking sequel is. That's the point. It's building upon the foundation and building blocks of the first game. Yes, it looks the same. Like, visually, it's the same art style. No shit. I feel like this also is like a special thing with Nintendo fans, where Nintendo has kind of set up the expectation that every game in each series is going to feel a little bit more unique. You know, traditionally we get the one mainline Zelda, the one, you know, Smash, the one Mario Kart, and they all are very different.
Right.
One mainline Mario. With the Switch, that hasn't been the case, where we've been getting, I mean, they've still been pretty unique, like all the Kirby games are different on Switch and all that, but in Fire Emblem. But with Zelda, we've never had this happen. We've had Majora's Mask, but that was very different. To the point where, like, is it a sequel? I don't even count. I guess we also had Spirit Tracks too, but
we never had a direct sequel that took place in the same world, except for A Link Between Worlds, which released how many years later? Like 20 years later?
Right.
So, and that's obviously completely different. This is the first time we're actually getting it pretty much immediately after. I know it's been 6 years, but like, it was the next game that they made, which is the sequel to Breath of the Wild.
Right. And I mean,
they haven't done that since Zelda 2.
Right. And I think that's
not even like,
I mean, that's not even comparable. Right.
Yeah.
And that's one reason I'm actually more excited for Tears of the Kingdom, because, like you said, Nintendo as a whole doesn't really do this. they usually just start from scratch. And I think for Zelda, it was starting to show that they were doing that, with Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword. Like, a lot of people would agree that those maybe feel a little bit lesser. In some aspects, obviously, those are beloved games, and they're great games, whatever, but especially Skyward Sword. I love Skyward Sword, but I know people were really getting tired of that formula, and I think Aonuma knew, and that's why they kind of refreshed with Breath of the Wild, but considering Nintendo's never done that, and while it is true that certain Nintendo developers may seem a little, in air quotes here, lazy, I'm talking like the Mario sports games, or even something like New Horizons, which people weren't super into, and at launch at least, I've never been let down by the Zelda team. Ever. So if they've been working 6 years on the sequel to a game, the building blocks of a game they already had spent 5 years on, there's no reason to doubt that. Have they not shown very much of it? Yes, but that goes to the point, once again, of them wanting us to discover this stuff on their own. I have no reason to doubt Aonuma. Now, if this game comes out, truly, if it comes out and it is disappointing and it really reuses way too much and it feels kind of the same and it's not that exciting, then sure, I'll eat my words. This video will be here as a testament to when I was wrong. But there's just no reason to believe that.
Yeah. The thing is, obviously the main point people are bringing up, obviously we can say that the game's going to be good. I don't think anyone's ever doubting that this game's going to be fun because Breath of the Wild was fun. And it's the same base. But if we tackle like their main complaints here, which is just that it looks like DLC, which is obviously the only reason they're saying that is because it's built off Breath of the Wild and it's using the same general map. That's literally it. The mechanics completely new. There's no Sheikah Slate. That's all been replaced by the Fuse and the Ultra Hand and stuff like that. The map is basically doubled. Now we don't know for sure technically, but there's a bunch of sky islands and people have like overlaid stuff. And that area that they showed is huge. And that's just one part of the game. Right. And there's, even if you go high enough up, if you look at the map, it literally is just a whole other layer.
Right. Well, that's what I want to talk about. And this kind of goes with the graphics. I've seen a lot of people, even my roommate, I was saying like, wow, I'm kind of surprised this can run on Switch. Not because I'm one of those Switch 2 people, but because that's obviously not happening. But but because, Breath of the Wild already kind of struggled on Switch at times, in the Korok Forest. When in the most recent gameplay demonstration, and to be fair, they did this in the 2021 E3 trailer, I believe, when he dives down from the Sky Island with Link, I have not seen something more impressive than that on Switch. Graphically, like in terms of just raw visual, it might look pretty similar, although I do think the lighting and everything's a little bit better. The textures are a little bit better. Not crazy better, but they're a little bit better. But the draw distance and the loading speed, all you need to do is watch a freaking Breath of the Wild speedrun and see them lag across the map doing their glitches to know that what is happening here technically with Tears of the Kingdom is really impressive. The draw distance for a Switch game is insane.
Yeah. And the thing is that's crazy is like this is just a testament to the fact that, first of all, the Switch is already 6 years old, so developers are having an easier time because they're more used to it. But secondly, Breath of the Wild obviously was a Wii U game at first, but they ported it like in the last year, starting in like 2016. They ported it to Switch, and it already runs fine on the Switch, just the way it is. They've had 6 years to improve that. So, to be honest, seeing it this much better is not really a surprise. There's no way they would just leave it the same.
Yeah.
Obviously, the art style is the same, but like you can tell there's definitely improvements if you look at it side by side.
Well, even I remember when they first showed like a gameplay trailer of this game, and we saw the bokoblins and the moblins and all that, and they kind of just look a little bit more designed. They have the clothes on, they have the horns on their heads now. I saw a lot of people saying, "Oh, it looks like they just added stuff to Breath of the Wild," and to be fair, they're obviously building upon that. But Breath of the Wild's really basic in hindsight. All the enemies. I mean, to be fair, this is a complaint with Breath of the Wild, was that the enemy design was kind of one note, kind of basic. You have your different tiers of power for the bokoblins and all that.
Yeah, there was kind of like a lacking variety with enemies. It was mostly like the same four like enemy types, but they just had like the different color was like their strength level or whatever.
Sure, and I could see that still maybe being kind of an issue with this game, potentially, because you're gonna have all the stuff from Breath of the Wild, then you're gonna have constructs, and then we saw the freaking three-headed dragon from Zelda 1 on the bridge, which will be like a new Lionel type, I guess. But even just having the visual variety of like the new outfits that the enemies wear and the Malice like armor they have on them. I don't know about you, but that alone makes the game just visually more interesting. And it'll make exploring more fun because it's like, oh, this enemy's gonna look a little different. Obviously, 100 hours in, we're gonna be getting tired of seeing some of them, I'm sure. But I don't know. I feel like in terms of a sequel, Aonuma is doing everything right. In the Zelda game, I should say. It's not just one man, obviously.
Yeah. No, it's literally just him.
He developed. That's why it took 6 years. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But I think this was a hard drive article that you sent me.
Yeah.
But it was so accurate. It was what was it? It was Nintendo fan upset that Nintendo is rehashing the greatest game ever made or something. Yeah. It's like, yeah. Damn straight. I mean, I remember like in 2018, 2019, around the time Breath of the Wild 2 or Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, was announced, people were saying, man, I wish I could experience Breath of the Wild for the first time again. Here you go. Aonuma did that. We can experience this whole world for the first time again. And yeah, we might recognize stuff. But I think that, going back to the open world stuff, I mean, that kind of plays to the strength of a big open world, because people are so intimate and familiar with Breath of the Wild's map. So going through it and noticing the differences and watching the YouTube comparisons of how these areas changed, I mean, that's going to be its own joy in of itself. Launch day for this game on Twitter is going to be so much fun, seeing people with the comparison shots. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Dude, the thing that's the craziest thing, though, is, like, obviously the people who are saying this is DLC, they're kind of, like, trolling. Like, they're just kind of trying to rile you up or whatever. But the truth is, people who... There's two types of people. Three, really. The first one is people who didn't play Breath of the Wild and are buying this, which, first of all, what are you doing? Secondly, it's going to be fresh to them anyway, so it doesn't matter. The second person is person who played Breath of the Wild once and then playing this game now, and because it's been so long that this is just going to be feel fresh anyway.
That's me. That's where I'm at.
Plus, there's like plenty of differences anyway. And the third person is the person who's played Breath of the Wild a lot and they're really familiar with the game. I promise you, anyone who's like that, which I would say is me, I'm just going to be exploring the map and just to see what's different, just for the sake of it, right? Because we already know it's going to be different, right? If you've played Breath of the Wild that much, there's no way you're not buying this game.
Right.
That's just right. How it is.
And going back to the abilities and just like the idea that they've been holding back in terms of showing us because they want us to discover stuff. The most prominent thing I've seen people asking for is dungeons, and I'm with you, brothers. I get you. I want that too. From this gameplay demonstration, that was my main thing that I wanted to see. I just wanted to see what the dungeons are, what those, green spiral shrine looking things are. I wanted to see that. They're obviously there.
Yeah.
There's no doubt that they're there. Will the dungeons be like a traditionally a Twilight Princess dungeon? Probably not. And you know what? I hope they're not. Because this is its own thing, with its own mechanics. The main issue with the Divine Beast in Breath of the Wild, for me, were that the puzzles weren't very good. I get like the repetitiveness of the visuals in the Divine Beast and the shrines. That never really bothered me that much, though. I'm sure they're gonna fix that in this game as well. But what the problem for me with the Divine Beast was the puzzles. But we're already seeing from these new abilities that I really don't think that's gonna be the case. Stasis and Magnesis, those I feel like were a little bit more freeform. But something like Ascend, I've seen a lot of people bring this up. That is so clearly gonna be used for some awesome puzzles. Because we didn't really see much of it in the gameplay demonstration. He was like, yeah, you can go through ceilings.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, I can imagine just, like, the type of puzzles that you could do. Like, for instance, imagine, like, you're in a cage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to, like, get out of the cage. You just use Ascend.
Right. That will happen. And then you can climb
I'm sure.
Absolutely. So, just to kind of close off here, this whole talking point that this feels like DLC is just kind of insane to me. Even it's just like, guys, we don't know. Has this been a weird marketing cycle? Absolutely. And if me and Caleb here are wrong about this, then we'll eat our words, and this video will be here for you to make fun of us for all of eternity. But I would be shocked if this game disappoints in any way, if it feels more like DLC than like a full sequel. Because from what they've shown, just the little tiniest slice of this game that we have seen, it already feels like enough of a sequel. This is why it took 6 years. These new abilities, the new Sky Islands, the changes to the map, probably getting it to perform that well on Switch. All of these things, that it's not, you don't click a button that says add new content. That's not how that works.
I mean, not only that, but like I know this isn't really like evidence or whatever, but I just have faith that the Zelda team knows what they're doing.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that's going to do it for this little discussion. If you guys enjoyed, please consider subscribing. Me and Caleb are going to be covering Tears of the Kingdom like crazy. Yes, I'm lumping you into it, Caleb. That's I'm putting you on the spot. You have to do every video with me now. No. So yeah, subscribe here for more Tears of the Kingdom stuff, potentially with Caleb if you want to have him come back. Let us know down in the comments below. Let us know your thoughts on this whole debate as well. Do you think this game looks like DLC? Do you agree with us that it definitely feels more like a full sequel? And of course, you can follow Caleb on Twitter at Caleb_Bravo99. Doing the plug for you. And until next time, folks. Bye-bye. Say see ya.
Oh yeah, goodbye.